So next topic is the strength of materials, and in the strength of materials, the first topic is engineering stress. Okay. So definition of engineering stress, which is also called nominal stress or simply stress, is load by initial area of cross section. Okay. Then we have engineering strain or nominal strain or simply a strain. Then change of length by initial length means final length minus initial length by initial length. Okay. So if we say it's engineering stress or nominal stress or simply a stress, it means the same thing, means all are the same. And in if we say engineering strain and nominal strain or simply a strain, that means the same. Okay. Now we have true stress or actual stress or natural stress. So true stress is load by final area of cross section. In terms of nominal stress, we have true stress is equal to nominal stress or engineering stress into 1 plus minus, plus is for tension and minus is for compression, into engineering strain, means engineering stress into 1 plus minus engineering strain. Okay. So true stress can be expressed in terms of engineering stress and engineering strain by this formula. Okay. So true strain is equal to load by final area of cross section is equal to engineering stress into 1 plus minus engineering strain, plus for tension and minus for compression. Now true strain or actual strain or natural strain. So this is equal to change in length by final length. Okay. In terms of engineering strain, we have ln plus minus ln 1 plus minus engineering strain. Okay. So true strain is equal to ln 1 plus minus engineering strain. Okay. Plus for tension and minus for compression. Now from these two values you can know that true stress and true strain are always increasing values, they never decrease, so they will always be moving upwards on a curve. If you make a graph of that, you will always find these values always increasing. Now in the plastic region, we have true strain is equal to some constant into true strain to the power n, means in the plastic region we have true stress is equal to some constant into true strain to the power n, or true stress is directly proportional to true strain to the power n, where n is the strain hardening coefficient or strain hardening exponent. Now elongation is equal to delta L is equal to a strain into initial length, or if you have engineering a strain, then there will be Li, or if there are a true strain, there will be Lf. Okay, means final length and initial length as per engineering stress, engineering strain or true strain. Now load at fracture. So load at fracture, PF or P by means yield, or fracture means fracture. So if you are given yield value, means yield stress, you have to put the yield strength value. If you are given the fracture stress, you have to apply the fracture stress, and then load at fracture is equal to a stress into initial area of cross section. You have to mind this term, that you have to multiply it with initial area of cross section, means load at fracture PF or PY is equal to sigma F into AI, or if you are given sigma by, then you have to use sigma by. Now a strain curve of a ductile material. This is the strain curve of a ductile material, or you can say mild steel. So for a mild steel, this is the a strain and a strain curve, a stress and a strain curve. Okay. So in this a stress and a strain curve, we will have some points. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, these are the points, and this is the area under the curve. The green part is known as resilience and the yellow part is known as toughness. Okay. So in this curve, we know that A is the proportionality limit. Proportionality limit means up to A, the stress and strain are directly proportional. Okay. The point B is the elasticity limit. Means up to point B, the material or the ductile will be elastic. Then C is the upper yield point. Okay. And D is the lower yield point. And D to E is the plastic region. Means a strain hardening is happening in this region, D to E. Now, E to F is a strain hardening. Here in D to E, the strain hardening starts, and from E to F we have a strain hardening phenomenon happening. Okay, it starts here and then happens in E to F. Okay. Now F is the ultimate stress, means the highest value of the stress that a material can handle. Okay. So F is the ultimate stress, and G is finally the fracture point. Means at G, the finally fracture happens in the metal. Okay. So up to B means up to elastic limit, we have the area curved under a stress strain diagram is known as resilience. And up to the fracture point, means up to the point the metal will fracture, up to that point the area under the curve is known as toughness. Means the energy required for a material for fracture is known as toughness. Okay. Or the energy absorbed by the material up to fracture point is known as toughness. Okay. Similarly for resilience, it's up to elastic limit. Now resilience. So resilience is equal to load into extension, means half into load into extension. So half means force or load, and delta is the deformation under that force. Okay. In terms of a strain and volume also. So half into a stress into a strain into volume. Okay. It's resilience means total energy of that volume. So volume has been multiplied into it. That half into a stress into a strain into volume up to elastic limit. Okay. Now modulus of resilience means resilience per unit volume. Okay. So modulus of resilience is resilience per unit volume, and we are not given elastic limit. We are also always concerned with the value that we have is yield values. Always we have yield values or ultimate values. So in terms of, we always compute this resilience in terms of sigma by, means yield value. Okay, means yield stress and yield strain. So modulus of resilience is equal to half into sigma by into epsilon by. So sigma by is the yield strength and epsilon by is the yield strain. Okay. Now proof of stress. These all are nominal values. This sigma by and E by, these are all nominal values. Don't try to put this into true values. They are not true values. They are nominal values, engineering values, or simply a stress or a strain you say. Okay. Now we have proof of stress. So proof of stress is done for the material that does not show sigma by. So if the material does not show sigma by and you have to find its sigma by value, so you have to compute its proof of stress. So how do we get the proof of stress? So materials which does not show or which do not show yield point clearly, an offset of 0.2% in the plastic region gives a proof of stress. Means you draw the stress strain graph and put an offset of 0.2%, and then you will get the proof of stress. Beyond the elastic limit, the material undergoes cycling, loading and unloading, then sigma by increases. Okay. Means if you are doing the cyclic loading and unloading of a metal, then its sigma by will increase. If you are loading and unloading beyond the elastic limit, then sigma by will increase. This happens because of a strain hardening. Now we have three types of materials. First one is elastic, second one is plastic, and third one is rigid. Okay. So in examples of plastic bodies are ceramics or thermosetting plastics. Okay. So this is the stress strain curve. In the elastic body, it is proportional, means a stress is directly proportional to a strain. In the plastic body, or perfectly plastic body. A stress is constant while the a strain is increasing. Means a stress is not changing while the strain is keep increasing in plastic body or perfectly plastic body. Now we have rigid body. In rigid body, we don't feel any type of a strain. Means a stress keeps on increasing, but there is no a strain that can be seen in rigid body. Now we have creep. So creep is the slow and progressive permanent deformation under a static load. It is more pronounced at higher temperature. So creep is nothing but slow and progressive permanent deformation. It's a permanent deformation which was slow and progressive. Means it didn't stop at any point. It was always increasing and very slowly. And then it did a permanent deformation. And this all was happening under a static load. Okay. Now this creep is more pronounced at higher temperature. Means as you increase the temperature, this creep will increase. Now we have fatigue. So fatigue in cycling loading and unloading, if the strain energy increases more than the toughness, then fracture will happen. And this is known as fatigue. So fatigue happens in cyclic loading and unloading when the strain energy will increase more than toughness. So if it increase more than toughness means fracture will happen, because toughness is nothing but area under a stress or strain diagram up to fracture point. So if you are increasing the strain energy more than toughness, then really means fracture will always happen. So fatigue is nothing but the fracture that happens due to cyclic loading and unloading when a strain energy increases more than the toughness. Now we have endurance strength. So minimum stress up to which material will not fail under infinite number of cycles. So we were doing cyclic loading and unloading. Okay. So we were doing cyclic and loading and unloading. Then we will have a endurance strength of that material. So endurance strength of a material is the minimum stress up to which material will not fail up to infinite number of cycles. Means you keep taking the operation with the material and it will not fail up to endurance. If you are using endurance strength, if you are using the load less than the endurance limit of that material. Now failure test. So failure test is done by two types of test. First is tension test and second is compression test. So in tension test, ductile materials fail in shear, and this failure happens 45 degree to the axis. Okay, means 45 degree to the direction of load. And this is known as cup and cone fracture. The fracture of a ductile material in tension is a cup and cone fracture. Means the fractured part will be like a cup and cone. Means one part will have a aperture or the cut portion as a cup, and the another portion will have a figure of like a cone. Now in brittle material fail by tension. So brittle material fail by tension and the direction of this failure is 90 degree to the axis or 90 degree to the direction of the load. So ductile material in tension test fail by shear and brittle material fail by tension. Okay, this is the tension test in which brittle material fail by tension and ductile material fail by shear. Now shear failure happens at 45 degree and tension failure happens at 90 degree. Now we have compression test. So in compression test, ductile material fail by tension, which is 90 degree to the axis, and brittle material fail by shear, which is 45 degree to the axis. So shear happening at 45 degree and tension happening at 90 degree. Okay, so in compression, ductile material fail by tension and brittle material fail by shear, means opposite to that of the tension test. In tension test, ductile material fail by shear and brittle material fail by tension, while in compression test, ductile material fail by tension and brittle material fail by shear. And the direction of failure is same for shear and for tension. the tension happening at 90 degree and shear happening at 45 degree, means shear failure and tension failure. Okay. Now few definition. So stress is the resistance to deformation. So if you are deforming a body, it will resist that deformation. So amount of resistance will be called the stress. Now normal stress. So normal stress is always normal to the cross section, means perpendicular to the cross section. Now bending stress. Bending stress is produced by the bending moment. Shear stress. So shear stress is happening by torsion. Okay, so shear stress happens by torsion, which is equal to, which is not a normal stress. Means shear stress, when we are saying it's not normal to the cross section, means it is a inclined to that cross section. The shear stress plane will always incline to the cross section. So shear stress is equal to force by area. Force is the, F is the force acting on that area, and A is the area on which that F acts. Okay. Now means shear stress normal to the cross section is not normal to the cross section, means force and area on which that force is acting are parallel to each other. Means the area on which that shear force is acting is parallel to that area. Okay. Always this happens in shear stress, that force is acting parallel to the area. So F by A means F is the force acting on that area, and A is the area on which F acts parallelly. Now stress, strain and moment of inertia are tensors. So tensors, you know the definition, it's not a scalar or a vector, it's a different quantity, it's a tensor. So example of tensors are a stress, a strain and moment of inertia. So these are the tensors shown for a stress and a strain respectively. So in tensor of a stress, we have sigma x, sigma y and sigma z along the diagonal, and then shear stress tau x by tau xz, then tau by x, tau by z, then tau zx and tau zy. Okay. Similarly, in the strain tensor, we have epsilon x, then psi or phi x by 2, then phi xz by 2. So this is the total, phi xy is the total shear strain in the xy plane, and this is 1 by 2 means half of that. Okay, means half of the shear strain value in the xy plane. Phi xz is the half of the shear strain in the xz plane, and so on. Okay, so this is the tensor for a strain, and this is the tensor for a stress. Okay, so phi xy is the total shear strain on xy plane, and similarly will be phi xz or phi by x or phi yz, phi zx or phi zy, similarly will be total shear strain on those plane. Now axial strain. So axial strain is a strain that is happening in the axial direction. So axial direction is taken as the length. So axial strain is equal to epsilon L is equal to delta L by Li. So delta L is the change in length and Li is the initial length. So delta L is equal to LF minus Li, means final length minus initial length by initial length. Then lateral strain means a strain happening in the lateral direction. So change of breadth and change of depth. Okay. So change of breadth or change of depth by initial breadth or initial depth. Okay. So lateral strain is equal to delta B by Bi or delta D by Di. So delta B is Bf minus Bi and delta D is Df minus Di. Okay. Now we have shear strain. So shear strain is delta by H. Okay. So what is delta and what is H? So this is delta, means force is acting parallel to the cross section. Okay. And it is moving the cross sectional. It has moved the cross section. Okay. So delta is the deformation and H is the height. Okay. So shear strain is delta by H. Now FOS or factor of safety. So factor of safety is equal to yield strength or ultimate strength by allowable stress or design stress or working stress. Means factor of safety is equal to yield stress or ultimate stress. Yield stress is used in ductile and ultimate stress is used for brittle. Okay. Now this is the ratio of sigma by or sigma u by sigma A or D or W. A is allowable, D is design, and W is working. Okay. So FOS is equal to sigma by means yield strength or ultimate strength by allowable stress or design stress or working stress. So factor of safety is always greater than 1. Now margin of safety. So margin of safety is equal to factor of safety minus 1. Okay, so MOS is margin of safety, which is equal to factor of safety minus 1. Now this is just a small information that DO means outside diameter is equal to inside diameter plus 2 into thickness. If you are given the thickness, you can find using this that D naught is equal to DI plus 2T. 2T is the means T is the thickness and 2 is multiplied with it. So outside diameter is equal to inside diameter plus 2T. It's very common thing. It's not big deal, but I have written it. So fatigue strength of a non-ferrous material is 10 to the power 7 or 10 to the power 8 stress cycles. So fatigue strength or endurance strength of a non-ferrous material. Okay. So for a non-ferrous material, fatigue strength or endurance strength or endurance limit is 10 to the power 7 or 10 to the power 8 stress cycles. Now we have Hooke's law. So Hooke's law says that within the proportionality limit, a stress is directly proportional to a strain. Means a stress is equal to modulus of elasticity into a strain. Okay. So E is the modulus of elasticity or slope of the stress strain curve. Okay. So up to the proportionality limit, the stress strain curve is a straight line. So this is nothing but equation of a straight line, that sigma is equal to slope, which is the E, and epsilon is the strain. So strain is directly proportional to a strain within proportionality limit, and E is the modulus of elasticity or slope of a stress strain curve. Assumption in Hooke's law. So the assumption in Hooke's law is material is isotropic, homogeneous and elastic. Okay. So material is isotropic, homogeneous and elastic. Okay. This is the assumption of Hooke's law. So modulus of elasticity, E is equal to sigma by epsilon. So sigma is the stress and epsilon is the strain. Now modulus of elasticity does not depend on change in length, breadth or depth. Okay, it is a material property, means it depends on the material and does not depend upon the change of the length, breadth or depth of the material. Okay, so modulus of elasticity is equal to a stress by a strain, and modulus of elasticity does not depend upon the change of length, breadth or depth because it's a material property. Now shear modulus or modulus of rigidity. So shear modulus or modulus of rigidity is equal to shear stress by shear strain. Okay. Now bulk modulus K. So bulk modulus K is equal to sigma by epsilon V. So sigma is the volumetric stress, or if you are given hydrostatic pressure, not volumetric stress. So sigma is also known as hydrostatic pressure. So in hydrostatic pressure we have sigma by is equal to sigma x is equal to sigma by into sigma z, because that's the Pascal law. So this is just the Pascal law, means hydrostatic pressure is equal in all the direction. So bulk modulus is equal to volumetric stress by volumetric strain. Okay, and if you are given hydrostatic pressure, then hydrostatic pressure is constant in all the direction, means sigma is equal to sigma x plus sigma by is equal to sigma by is equal to sigma z. Now strain energy per unit volume. So strain energy per unit volume is equal to half into a stress into a strain. If you are given the shear stress value, so shear stress into shear strain by 2. Okay. Now we have Poisson ratio. So Poisson ratio is equal to lateral strain by linear strain. So lateral strain is a strain of the breadth or depth, and linear strain is the a strain of length. So lateral stress is a stress of breadth or depth, and linear strain is the a strain of length. So Poisson ratio is equal to lateral strain by linear strain. Now you know that if you are increasing the strain if you are stretching the wire or any body, so if it's getting increased in length, then it will decrease in the lateral dimension. So that's the negative value for that. Means lateral strain is showing negative value because delta B will be a negative value. Means BF minus BI will be a negative value. That's why we have put in a negative sign for that. So increase in length will happening along with decrease in breadth or depth. So negative sign has been put for that. So minus delta B and minus delta D. Okay. Now Poisson ratio for a isotropic or an elastic materials is between 1 by 4 to 1 by 3. Means for a isotropic and elastic material, we have the limit of Poisson ratio from 1 by 4 to 1 by 3. Now modulus of elasticity in terms of modulus of rigidity and bulk modulus. So modulus of elasticity is equal to 2G into 1 plus mu. Mu is the Poisson ratio. In terms of bulk modulus, E is equal to 3K into 1 minus 2 mu. So K is the bulk modulus and mu is the Poisson's ratio. Here G is the modulus of rigidity, E is the modulus of elasticity. Now combining all these three, we have E is equal to 9 kg by 3K plus G. So K is the bulk modulus, G is the modulus of rigidity. Okay, so E is equal to 9 kg by 3K plus G. Okay, also we have G is greater than K is greater than E, means modulus of elasticity or Young's modulus. It is also known as Young's modulus. Modulus of elasticity is also known as Young modulus. So Young modulus is the highest value and modulus of rigidity is the lowest value, and bulk modulus is in between. Means if you are given three values and you have to find which is which, then you can find from that given that you know that modulus of rigidity is the lowest value, bulk modulus is in between G and E is the highest. Means modulus of elasticity is the highest value, modulus of rigidity is the lowest value, and bulk modulus is in between these two. Now we have always saying isotropic, homogeneous and all that. So what is isotropic? So isotropic means the property is same in all the direction. Okay, so whether you are choosing any direction, you will find the same property in every direction. So that's the isotropic material for you. Then anisotropic. So anisotropic is just opposite to that of the isotropic, means you will find different values in every direction you will choose. Okay, so isotropic is you will find the same properties in every direction, while in anisotropic you will find different properties in every direction. Okay, now we have orthotropic. So in orthotropic we have different properties values in three perpendicular direction, means x, y, z. If you choose any three perpendicular direction, you will find different properties in all these three directions. Now for a homogeneous and isotropic materials, there are two elastic constants, E and mu. E is the modulus of elasticity and mu is the Poisson's ratio. Okay, for orthotropic materials there are 9 independent elastic constants, and for anisotropic materials there are 21 elastic constants. Okay, now triaxial stress condition. So Ex is equal to delta L by L, means linear strain in x direction is equal to delta L by L. Delta is change in length, L is the initial length. Okay, is equal to sigma x by E minus mu into sigma by E minus mu into sigma z by E. So sigma is the stress in x direction, E is the modulus of elasticity which is constant in every direction. So isotropic material. So sigma x by E minus mu into sigma by E minus mu into sigma z by E will give you Ex. Now E by is equal to delta B by B is equal to sigma by E minus mu into sigma x by E minus mu into sigma z by E. Similarly, epsilon z is equal to delta H by H is equal to sigma z by E minus mu into sigma x by E minus mu sigma by E. Okay. So all these mu values means the Poisson's ratio are concerned with the lateral direction. Okay. And this is the linear direction. Okay. So if you are doing Ex, we have sigma x by E. If you are doing sigma by means epsilon by, you will have sigma by E. And if you are doing sigma epsilon z, you will have sigma z by E. Okay. And mu is concerned with the lateral direction. So lateral direction for Ex, for x is by and z, by is x and z, and z is x and by. Okay. So mu is concerned with the lateral direction. Now if a stress is compressive, put a negative sign. So these are all the, if you are taking positive sign here, so if any case you are given that some values are negative, so you have to put a negative sign for that. So we have taken all these values sigma x, sigma y and sigma z as positive value. Then we have this formula. If you are given any value as a compressive, then you have to put a negative sign for that. Now volumetric strain. So volumetric strain is equal to sigma epsilon x plus epsilon by and epsilon z, which is equal to by, which is equal to 1 for hydrostatic condition. Means same pressure, same stress in every direction, or same pressure in every direction. When object is free to deform, there is no stress in it. Okay, that's a very important thing that you must know, and you must understand this, that a stress is happening only when you are imposing and restriction. Okay, so a stress always happens we are imposing and restriction. If you are allowing the object to deform freely, it will not happen, it will not bear any stress. So when object is free to deform, there will be no stress induced, and but a strain will be there. A strain will be happening due to the change in the size. Okay, but there will be no stress if the object is free to deform. Now volumetric strain energy. So volumetric strain energy is equal to 1 by 2 into sigma x plus sigma by into sigma plus sigma z by 3, or into volumetric strain. Okay, means average value of the sigma x, sigma by and sigma z into half, or into volumetric strain. Now volumetric strain for a cuboid is equal to EV epsilon v is equal to sigma x plus sigma by plus sigma z by E into 1 minus 2 mu. Mu is the Poisson's ratio, and these are the stress values in xyz direction, and E is the modulus of elasticity. For a cylindrical prism, we have volumetric strain is equal to epsilon L, means a strain in the linear direction, plus 2 into ED, means 2 into a strain in the lateral direction, means D is the lateral direction diameter. So ED is the a strain happening in the diameter, and L is the epsilon L is the a strain happening in the length. Okay. For a sphere, EV is equal to 3 into ED. Okay. ED not epsilon V and epsilon D. Okay. So a spherical epsilon V is equal to 3 into epsilon D. When an object is neither expands or contracts in volume, when subjected to a volumetric stress, then Poisson's ratio mu is equal to 0.5. Okay, means when an object is neither expanding nor contracting, then the Poisson's ratio will be 0.5, because there will be delta V is equal to 0. So when delta V is equal to 0, you will have mu is equal to 0.5. Okay. Now delta V is equal to minus delta Y when the stress is compressive. That's a normal thing. You know that you will have the volumetric stress is equal to minus delta V when you are dealing with the compressive stress. Okay. So thank you.